The aspects that you did in it weren't live. Do you want to just tell us about that show?
Yep. There's for a lot of live shows you have pre-taped segments, and what I did on the journal, I worked on a section of the journal called the diary, which was usually more lifestyle kinds of stories. So it wasn't the hard news stuff. So it wasn't talking to the Prime Minister that night about what was happening that day, which was more of the live aspect. And that show actually never ran direct live to air. It was always pre-taped earlier in the evening and then shot live to tape, which means you record the show as if it's live. You're in and out on the second. You don't edit the show at all. So live to tape is actually challenging, but there is that buffer that if something goes horribly wrong, you can go and fix it. But you don't really have full post on a show like that, so you really do consider it live. But what I did was do stories on, I remember, this is really old, but I remember one of the stories I worked on was when Madonna was dropped by Pepsi as a sponsor because she did the Like a Virgin music video, which was it was all religious and very controversial, so they dropped her, which was a huge deal. So I did a whole story on that, and I had to work with an editor. So it was a taped package piece of about, it may have been 6 minutes or so, and the anchor through to that piece within the show and then came back to the anchor desk. So it's sort of a little bit of all the, it was live to tape with pre-tape packages that were in it as well.
Okay. So did you, for the journal, did you have to do like a lot of the research and prep?
It was similar to what I described with Canada AM. Again, you know, pitching stories, sometimes getting assigned stories, but often pitching them. And we had more time on the journal. Canada AM was a daily show, so you had to work really, really fast and have it ready for the next morning. The journal was, the section of the journal I worked on was a little bit further ahead, so I'd work on stories, I'd work on several stories at once, and they would be kind of slotted into the lineup as they felt. And they get dropped all the time too, because if big news hit, they would drop the lifestyle story or the feature that wasn't as time sensitive. But then when there wasn't any news, it's like, what do you got? They, you know, put all the stories on because sometimes you get a really quiet news day. And I'd have to do the same thing. I'd have to find the guests, and again, it before, you know, we had some. I can't remember when I was there if we actually used a lot of, you know, computer research, but we really didn't have the internet at all. So it was a lot of on the ground kind of research, and really on the phone. You just got to know how to reach certain people through different organizations and word of mouth. Or if you're reading a newspaper or article, you get people's names and look them up and try to track them down. So it was a lot of that sort of old-fashioned kind of chase producing.
Okay. So from your job point, how does live TV differ from pre-recorded shows?
It's, to me, the biggest difference is, you know, if you do something great on live TV, it's gone. Like, it's just over and it's done. Whereas if you do something bad, if something horrible happens, it's over and you move on. But it's kind of the opposite when you work on more of the shows that I do, which are now they're, you know, we shoot them months in advance of the time they air, and we edit them for weeks. So it's a whole different kind of production. And if something's great, it kind of lasts longer. It exists, and you can build up to it. You can promote it. You know what you have, and so you can kind of make a big deal of it. If something doesn't turn out so well, you know in advance, so you might want to, like, we might not promote something as heavily if it didn't turn out as well. With live, you don't know, and so there's just a different ramp up, and there's a different payoff. I really loved every day coming in and knowing that it was all on the line every day. Like, it's like I'm as good as my last show, and as I say, there's high fives after an amazing show, but then the next morning it's like, okay, what's going on today? Like, you don't get to, it doesn't last, you don't get to kind of savor that as much. But again, contrary, if something's horrible and you go home feeling awful because the show was terrible that night, next day it could be amazing. It's a whole new day. So it's very different.
Okay. So were there any older TV, like live TV shows that you used to watch that kind of inspired you to get into live TV?
Probably news more than anything, because I started my career in news and current affairs, so I would say that, and I thought that was always really exciting.
Like, were there any specific news shows?
Well, specific live news shows, I guess the morning shows I always really liked. I liked the American shows, the Today Show, and I thought they had moments that they were really great and really relevant. I mean, if something big was happening, you knew that you're watching together with everyone else. I think that's a really cool feeling, is knowing that something's happening live that you're experiencing that everybody's experiencing. And I think, you know, we're in such an era now of PVRing everything.
Yeah.
Like we don't have that group experience as much, and live is the ultimate group experience. You know, when you watch, you know, things happen at the Super Bowl, you know, halftime show that are controversial or big, everyone's experiencing that at the time. Or, you know, award shows, I would say, probably were always something that I found really exciting because you never knew what was going to happen. You know,
That's true.
is you know, Britney going to fall down? And, you know, that one performance we were all watching together,
Yeah.
and it was exciting. And I think I kind of miss that. I think that we don't have enough of those shared experiences, and I think that's really cool.
True. That is true. So were there any incidents when a host or like a speaker or anything like messed up really, really badly, and like what would your show kind of do when that would happen? Like, did you guys cut to commercial?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on, and it happens all the time, and I think that I mean, I listen to a lot of live radio. I listen to a lot of CBC radio where they have, you know, As It Happens, or those shows that are live, or the morning shows, and I think the audience kind of accepts that because it's live, things are going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, you lose people all the time. If you're on a phone interview, often they'll lose someone, and you really count on your host to be able to manage that situation and not get too flustered. Nothing horrible happened. I mean, I think the cast incident was probably the funniest thing that's happened that no one was expecting. But we do so much prep, or we did when I did it, that the odds of something in terms of the content not going right are pretty slim. Technically anything could happen, and and you just kind of you just count on your team, your producer and your technical team to, you know, yeah, for sure you should throw out a commercial, and it's very flexible to, okay, we'll be right back, and that kind of thing. But you always have to have a bit of a backup. I know that live radio, you know, they always have something that they can go to. They've always got, you know, they can throw to a weather report, or they can throw to, you know, let's get caught up on traffic right now because we've lost this guest and we'll hopefully get back to them. I think being really fluid and being very flexible and nimble is really, really important in life, because you're in the game. Like you can't expect everything to go perfect, and that's kind of not the point. I think if something's too perfect, I think for the audience it's not as exciting anyway. I think that's the excitement of live.
Yeah, it's like less scripted.
Totally. Everything feels so pre-constructed now that it's really refreshing sometimes to have something that who knows what's going to happen. It's exciting.
Yeah, that's probably like why everyone loves award shows.
I think so. I think they're probably one of the last really exciting live, I mean, sports events for sure. You know, and crazy things happen in sports events that can be exciting, but definitely all of our, and it's so funny when you think about award shows, celebrities are so prefab. They're so controlled. Their image is controlled. Their tweets are written by other people. Their sound bites when they get interviewed on Entertainment Tonight are all completely practiced and rehearsed. So when we get to see those people, you know, unscripted and on a high wire, it's fun. It's exciting.
So